Good day, and welcome to AI Podcast at digitVIEW. Whether you're a business leader, technologist, or simply curious about what's next, we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming the way we work, create, and make decisions.
Government agencies today can do things at a scale that was once, well, it was basically science fiction. But how are they doing it? It's not just more people on the ground. It's technology. It's working silently, in the background, using our data in ways we would probably never expect. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the specific tools and data streams that are powering modern immigration enforcement right here in the US. So let's just start with a number to get a sense of the scale we're talking about. 230,000. That's how many people were arrested and deported by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, just during the Trump administration. Now, to pull off something on that level, you need a lot more than just boots on the ground. You need a really powerful, data-driven technological backbone. So how does a system like this actually work? Well, we're going to peel this thing back like an onion, layer by layer. First, we'll talk about this new scale of enforcement. Then we'll get into the specific software, the stuff they use to plan raids, and the app they use to identify people out in the field. After that, we get to the real shocker, where all the data is coming from. And finally, we'll look at the very real and sometimes dangerous impact of it all. All right, let's dive right in. The big question that journalists have been digging into is this: what is the actual tech that's letting the government target not just individuals, but entire neighborhoods at a rate we've just never seen before? And the answer, as it turns out, is this really potent and pretty controversial mix of software and, of course, data. Okay, so the first piece of this whole puzzle is the planning software. You can think of it like the mission control for these large-scale raids. And reporting from 404 Media has uncovered a key tool that was developed by the secretive, some might say notorious, data analytics firm Palantir. It's a system called Elite, and its whole reason for being is to plan massive enforcement operations. And they weren't exactly subtle when they named it. Elite actually stands for Enhanced Leads Identification and Targeting for Enforcement. I mean, its entire purpose is spelled out right there in the acronym. This is software built from the ground up to find people. So, how does it actually work? Well, according to a leaked user guide, it's disturbingly simple. An ICE agent can literally just draw a circle or a square on a map of a neighborhood, and instantly the whole area just populates with pins. Each pin is a potential target. Click on a pin, and you get a whole dossier: name, photo, address, and even something called a confidence score that estimates how likely it is that the person is actually at that location right now. And look, this is not just some feature they might use. In actual court testimony, an ICE official described using Elite to find what they called target-rich neighborhoods, areas that had a high density of people they could potentially arrest. That phrase, target-rich, man, that really tells you everything about the strategic, almost militaristic mindset that's behind this kind of technology. So how did reporters actually manage to connect this specific tool to Palantir? Well, they found the smoking gun inside a government contract. The only public mention of that full Elite acronym was buried deep inside a contract with Palantir that was worth nearly $30 million. That was the crucial link right there. Okay, so Elite is the software that gets agents to the right neighborhood, to these target-rich areas. But what happens when they're on the ground? How do they identify one specific person in a crowd, or when they knock on a door? For that, they turn to a different piece of tech, something they have right on their phones. It's an app, and it's called Mobile Fortify. And what it does is pretty straightforward. It turns an agent's phone into a portable facial scanner. They can point their phone at someone's face, snap a picture, and the app instantly runs a facial recognition search against a gigantic government database to try and figure out who they are and what their immigration status is. And when I say a massive database, I am not exaggerating. The app is searching a Department of Homeland Security system that has something like 200 million images in it. Now, this is a really big deal because it takes a technology that was originally designed for border crossings and ports of entry, and it turns it inward, deploying it right on American streets. But here is the critical issue. This technology is far from perfect. In one court case that's been documented, an agent scanned a woman's face, and the app came back with 2 completely different names. And this is especially worrying because facial recognition has a well-documented, proven history of being way less accurate for women and for people of color. And yet, there are reports that ICE has treated a match from this very app as definitive proof of a person's identity. So that brings us to the fuel for this entire engine.
All of these tools, the planning software, the facial recognition app, they are completely useless without one thing: huge, huge amounts of personal data. And where ICE is getting that data, well, that might be the most shocking part of this whole story. So what is it? What's fueling this digital dragnet? If it's not just coming from the traditional law enforcement and criminal justice databases we'd expect, where on earth is all of this information coming from?
Okay, here's the answer. According to data sharing agreements that journalists have uncovered, ICE has created these hidden pipelines of information from some very unexpected places. They've been given access to our personal data from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, from the IRS, and even from a massive database of medical insurance claims. Let me be super clear about this. This is the sensitive, private information you provide to get healthcare or to pay your taxes. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, just one of those agreements, the one with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, gave ICE access to the personal data of nearly 80 million patients. 80 million. It's just a staggering number. So what happens when you combine this incredibly powerful but sometimes flawed technology with all of this sensitive personal data that was collected for completely different reasons? Well, you get some very serious real-world consequences, and you get a major debate about whether any of this should be allowed to happen at all. Now, Palantir has defended its work. Internally, they argue their tools just make ICE's work more efficient, maybe even more accountable. But critics, and get this, including some of Palantir's own employees, are sounding the alarm big time. They're pointing to the risk of U.S. citizens being wrongly targeted, the huge potential for racial profiling, and the incredible danger of giving these powerful tools to an agency that has, in the past, claimed it doesn't even need a warrant to enter buildings. And listen, these are not just some abstract theoretical worries. There are public reports of U.S. citizens being targeted and swept up because of simple errors in address data. We have the documented cases of the facial recognition being flat out wrong. And all of this gets amplified by ICE's controversial legal position on entering properties without a warrant. It's a really dangerous mix of flawed data and aggressive policy. In response to all these revelations, there's a growing push for some kind of regulation. A group of lawmakers has actually proposed a bill that's aimed at reining in that Mobile Fortify app. The bill would try to restrict its use to official ports of entry, airports, border crossings, and block plans to share the technology with local police departments across the country. And this quote from journalist Joseph Cox, man, it just absolutely nails the heart of the ethical problem here. It's all about context and consent. When you give your address to the IRS to pay your taxes, or you share your personal medical history with your doctor, you have a reasonable expectation of how that data is going to be used. You certainly don't expect it to be handed over for immigration enforcement. And this really leaves us with a fundamental and kind of scary question for our digital age. As this kind of data sharing blurs the lines between government agencies, how do we protect our own information? When you give your personal data to one agency for one very specific purpose, does that give the entire government a license to use it for any purpose it wants? It's a question we all really need to start asking.
Thank you for joining us for the AI podcast at DigitView. We look forward to having you with us again soon.
This is DigitView.